Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of the Mark with a Mic podcast. I am your host, Austin Hicks, and we are talking about the AEW pay per view from last night. It was Redemption, not Revolution. Uh, not, I would say, not one of their strongest pay per views, unfortunately. But when you have such a high bar that AEW has set for their pay per views, you're not going to hit a grand slam every single time. So, uh, it is what it is sometimes. It was just some matches I don't think it needed to be on a pay per view. Really, there was a lot of matches I thought that that would have better served a Dynamite, in my opinion. You had title matches, you had new champions being crowned, and you had a segment in after the main event, I would say, which should make things interesting for All In, depending on how they take things. So yeah, let's just get right into it. The pay per view started with a six-person ladder match for the number one contendership for the AEW International title. You had Speedball Mike Bailey, Jack Perry, the Beast Mortos, 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 El Clone, Nick Wayne, and Commander. I think that's everybody. I was right about Nick Wayne. I was not right about Leo Rush. It was funny because I said that Leo Rush could be a dark horse to win this match, and he wasn't even in the match to begin with. Um, Mike Bailey, being from Montreal, being a Canadian, he was far and away the most over guy in this match. The crowd was there for him, no matter what he was doing. Um, Even when he was out on the ground, the crowd were trying to get Speedball into it. They were chanting his name. They were booing anybody who went near him. And the match started just like how normal ladder matches do, especially multi-mans. You had just brawling everywhere. But then they get up to the top of the ramp, and a Speedball climbs the big ass ladder that's uh, at the front of the stage, like right where the people walk out, and he hits a moonsault on everybody off the ladder. And then Jack Perry, for some reason, does the exact same thing. It didn't look as good as Speedballs. But then they get back to the ring. Jack Perry introduces tables, and then he proceeded to hit the Beast Mortos with a Hurricanrana through the table. Just a big spot fest, which you should have expected, especially to start the pay per view with this. It needed to be a big spot fest to get the crowd into it, and the crowd were very much alive for this match. And then it was like a big sequence, right? Perry hit Mortos with Hurricanrana, and then on the other side of the ring, El Clone hit Speedball with a diving foot stomp, and then immediately after that, Commander did his rope where he walks across the top rope into a shooting star press onto Nick Wayne. And I think this is when people started going up to try and grab it. And then just more carnage, more stuff like that. The crowd is still very much alive throughout most of this. And they were very much on Speedball's side. They really weren't chanting for anybody else, if I remember correctly. Uh you know, Jack Perry got a good reception when he made his entrance, but they weren't really engaged with anybody else. It was Speedball or Jack Perry that the crowd was more so more so involved with, and they were more so on Speedball's side. We get to like the ending part of this match, and this is when the crazy shit happens, right? You had all these table spots, all of these ladder spots. Jack Perry hit a Canadian destroyer on Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne and Jack Perry are on top of the ladder together. And they have a ladder bridge between the middle rope and the ladder. And instead of doing a sunset flip powerbomb, Jack Perry proceeds to hit a Canadian destroyer onto Nick Wayne, uh, off the ladder onto the ladder that was bridged, effectively taking Nick Wayne out of the match. And then I don't remember if this was before or after, but they had everybody on a ladder, and the Beast Mortos was on the middle ladder, and there's two ladders on the side, like sideways. So then Mortos pushes all of the ladders off, and then Commander lands to the outside of the ring. Same with Jack Perry, same with all of them. Uh, just a quick side note, the Beast Mortos actually moves very fast for his size. I've seen a few Beast Mortos matches. He's more on Collision. Like I said, I don't really watch Collision, but he moves very well for his size. He does dives, he does kicks, he moves around with everybody just fine. And but Jack Perry, he goes to get a ladder, and I don't remember what happened after that. I don't remember. Speedball. I think it was the spot where everybody got thrown out of the ring. It was everybody got the ladders dumped out from under them. Everybody hit the mat, and Speedball's in the ring by himself. He takes out Mortos, who tries to stop him. There's a few people that try and stop him, but Speedball takes out everybody, and he climbs the ladder and wins the match. He gets the poker chip. Speedball Mike Bailey wins this match like I thought he would, and it was the right decision, I think, to have Speedball win this match. Especially, it's his hometown, so the crowd were going to lose their minds. And I think a match with him and Kyle Fletcher, they've done two of them already, I believe, and I only remember the last one. The last one was very good, in my opinion. They've already announced when that match is going to happen. It's going to happen August 5th at Grand Slam Mexico in Arena Mexico. That could honestly main event Grand Slam. I don't know if it will, but it could. But overall, very good match. With these multi-man ladder matches, you're going to get a big spot fest. You're going to get everything. You're going to get everything you think you would get. Tables, ladder, jumping off ladders, big ladder bumps. The Canadian Destroyer was absolutely fucking nuts. I don't really know if we needed that or not, but with AEW, that's just kind of what you get. But I have no complaints about that match. I think it was the perfect opener. And then it goes pretty much right into the second match, which was the match I thought was going to open. Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley versus the Young Bucks. Little side note before the match, Will Ospreay actually entered with Jon Moxley, with his theme music, same entrance, went through the crowd. He had the Death Riders logo on his jacket. I saw some people on Twitter complaining about this. I don't think it's much to complain about. If this is only a tag team thing where Ospreay uses the Death Riders music and comes out through the crowd, I think that's fine. It's not something I want to see him do every week. I think the main problem people had with it is it was on a pay-per-view, so you don't get that big Will Ospreay pay-per-view entrance that you come to expect. I don't see a big problem with it. If he did it at Wembley, then yes, I would see a big problem with it. But as if he's only doing it while teaming with the Death Riders and specifically Jon Moxley, then I don't think it's much to complain about. very early on in this match, Nick Jackson and Will Ospreay collide heads, and Ospreay seemed to be fine, but Nick Jackson started selling like a concussion or a head injury, and he sat outside the ring for a while. They wanted to make you think that he was actually hurt. Matt Jackson was a little. Matt Jackson was showing concern for his brother because of course. And Will Ospreay was actually trying to show some sympathy. Um, kind of letting up on his punches and making sure and going outside to the ring and to see if he's okay. But then again, Moxley would come from behind him, tell him, you got to go for the kill shot, you got to pull the trigger. This is what it takes to be the guy. But Ospreay's still in his head about things. He's a Death Rider by name, but he's not an actual Death Rider. He doesn't have that Death Rider attitude. Which that would have been nice if commentary kind of elaborated on that. They did not. Do not expect AEW commentary to elaborate on anything that they're showing. This match got weird. This match got very weird. It was very story driven, but I understood the story they were trying to do. It's a good one. I don't think it was executed all that well, in my opinion. It was, I don't know if it's Ospreay not really having much experience in this kind of realm, or maybe just Death Riders fatigue, but it wasn't what they thought it would be. It wasn't what they were going for, I should say. But back into the action, Nick Jackson eventually tags back in. He's still selling the concussion, but he's giving it a go, as they say. And he's shaking the cobwebs out, but he's still getting offense in. Eventually they set up Moxley for a Meltzer driver, and Nick goes to do the flip, but Ospreay catches him, and Ospreay hits a Styles Clash while at the same time Moxley hits a power driver on Matt. By this point, Ospreay tags in. Nick is still in the ring. Ospreay hits Nick in the head repeatedly with super kicks, and he falls down to the mat, and Ospreay is about to do like the forearms that he usually does, where he stands over you and kind of like forearms you in the back of the head. But he's showing remorse. He's still showing that remorse that the Death Riders usually don't show. And this kind of pisses off Mox, and Mox tags himself in. And I think this is when the Bulldog choke happens. And when this Bulldog choke happens, one of the worst wrestling sequences I have ever seen took place. He has Matt Jackson in the Bulldog choke. So Matt rolls out of the Bulldog choke, so Moxley is exposed. Nick Jackson comes off the ropes with a 450. Nick Jackson then very obviously puts himself into position for Will Ospreay to hit a 450. Nick Jackson, after taking a 450, proceeds to stand straight up like he didn't just take a move, and he super kicks Will Ospreay, and then I believe there's a Canadian Destroyer in there. I don't know. It's a big fucking mess. They hit a BTE trigger on Moxley, and then while they're pinning, they go to attack Ospreay. Ospreay moves out of the way and hits Matt with a hidden blade. It is one of the more egregious points of no selling I think I've ever seen. You have dudes no selling destroyers. You have dudes no selling 450s, super kicks, finishers. gets to be a bit too much, and that's where we were at. That's where I was at personally with this. And the finishing sequence is Matt Jackson. He's on the outside. I think he spotted Marina Shafir getting the chair for Moxley, and he goes to super kick Moxley, but Moxley moves out of the way. Shafir gets hit with a super kick. Um, by this point, Nick Jackson is in the ring. He is pretty much on death's door, and Moxley hits him with two paradigm shifts and a death rider, and he gets a chair. Ospreay stops Moxley from using the chair, and I believe they just get a roll up on Moxley. I forget how this match actually finished, but no, it was a BTE trigger. Yeah, it was a BTE trigger. The Young Bucks did win this match, like I thought they would, and yeah, it was a match that I thought was starting out very good, and then it got worse and worse as the match went on, and then by the end, it just got too egregious for me. But the Young Bucks winning was the right choice. It sets them up for what we know now as a tag match at All In for the tag titles. And on the other side, it creates dissension for the Death Riders, for Moxley and Ospreay. They elaborate on that a little bit later, but it's basically Ospreay showing remorse when that's not the Death Riders' way. Again, like I said, it is an interesting story, but I don't think they truly just don't handle it all that well. It was a fine match, but it was trending towards really good to me, and then it kind of fell off a cliff for me. The next match is Kyle Fletcher versus Bandito for the international title. This was probably the best match of the entire show. Kyle Fletcher and Bandito both are in the conversation for Wrestler of the Year. I think Kyle Fletcher needs to, once he's done with this international title run, I think he needs to be in the world title picture. Just the matches he can have with the people in that title scene would be great. Because he's already had matches with Ospreay. It looked like they were building to a match with Omega last year, but that never seemed to have happened. He hasn't. I don't think he's wrestled MJF yet. It's just a whole group of guys that he hasn't worked with yet, but the people he has worked with, he's knocked it out of the park every single time. Same with Bandito too. Like I said, Bandito should not be taking this many big pay-per-view losses, but when the matches are that good and it kind of gets you over in defeat sometimes. The match was very back and forth for most of it. A funny thing was Excalibur brought up that Fletcher was wearing different style of boots. He didn't need to do that. I don't know why he did that. It kind of took my attention away from the match a little bit because I didn't even notice that his boots were different. Bandito at one point in the match went for a springboard moonsault, but Fletcher caught him with a super kick midair, and this fucking thing hit him perfectly, like right in the chest. And then Fletcher after that hit Bandito with an apron powerbomb. And then the match went back and forth for a while, and then Fletcher hit Bandito with a brainbuster on the apron, which looked gnarly. And then Bandito was on the ground. He was getting counted out, and then he starts to rise up on the barricade, and he puts his head to another fan. And another fan is like, "You got this. You can win. You could do this." It is very great babyface work from Bandito, which is it's becoming a lost art, like pure white meat babyface work. But when it's done well, it is fantastic, and that's what Bandito did here. He beat the 10 count. He got in at like 9.9 or whatever, but Fletcher caught him with a spirit bomb immediately, but it was for a kick out. Um, Once again, commentary was kind of getting on Fletcher for being overly confident, playing toward the crowd. Um, Once again, I don't know why they did this because it's not too far off of what Kyle Fletcher does in every match. And maybe it's because Don Callis wasn't there. They really wanted to hammer it home that Fletcher wanted to do this all by himself. Um, I don't know. It is AEW commentary sometimes sucks. There's really no other way to look at it. Sometimes AEW commentary is very bad. They don't let a moment breathe. They try to analyze every single little detail in a match when sometimes the best way to commentate is to just let the match be the match, in my opinion. But after that spirit bomb, and once again, like they said, Fletcher was being overly confident. Bandito catches him. He goes for a dragon suplex, and this spot was really interesting. I never seen it. Fletcher or Bandito has Fletcher in the dragon suplex position. Fletcher flips Bandito over his back, but they're so close to the ropes that Bandito basically does a 21 plex, but it's a dragon suplex. And it looked gnarly. It looked great. The crowd popped huge for it and got a kick out. Bandito went for this move. I think that's when Fletcher gets to the outside of the ring or on the apron, I should say. Bandito goes for a sunset flip power bomb, but Fletcher fought him off, but Bandito was still able to get positioning to just hit him with a normal power bomb on the ground that made a big splat. It sounded great. It looked great. And then Bandito, the fucking crazy bastard, he goes to the top rope and hits a frog splash to the floor. No table, no nothing. Wasn't to the ring, straight up to the floor. It looked really great. The way they shot it, it looked like Bandito was 100 feet in the air. Um, and then Bandito gets Fletcher back into the ring, and then Bandito hits him with a shooting star press, but Fletcher kicks out, and starts a really intense back and forth where they're exchanging blows. They're countering each other's moves. Fletcher goes for a brain buster, but Bandito turns it into almost a leaping tornado DDT, which got a big near fall. Fletcher gets back on the offense and he goes for it to catch this finish. He even pulls down the knee. He does the taunt where he throws his arms up. But Bandito counters by literally just throwing Fletcher up in the air as far as he can. So then we get to the corner. Bandito, I don't know what people call this. I don't know if it has an actual name for it, but it's like the fall away slam, but instead of actually falling away, you flip with the guy. Hangman Page does it also, but that's what Bandito hit with Fletcher here. Great near fall. He gets his hand on the rope. Bandito goes for it again, but Fletcher counters. He actually does hit to catch this move this time and then hits a brain buster. But Bandito kicks out. And then the ultimate kill move, Fletcher gets Bandito up to the middle rope. He does a Michinoku driver, and then when he's on the ground, hits another Michinoku driver, does the running kick in the corner that he does, and then hits a top rope brainbuster to win. Commentary, once again, can't get out of their own way because Fletcher, when he hits this top rope brainbuster, Bandito's head doesn't hit the rope. You can obviously tell that it doesn't, but the way that they shot it, it looked close enough, I would say. But Excalibur just can't fucking help himself. And he goes, "Oh, he didn't get the top rope, but he might have gotten the middle one." It's like, dude, just shut the fuck up. Like, just let it be the moment. Like, yes, we can see that he didn't hit it perfectly, but it's a fucking top rope brainbuster. That's still a brutal move no matter what. But yes, he hits the top rope brainbuster to win this match and retain his title. Uh, Fantastic match. Just absolutely fantastic match between these two. I don't know where this would rank along my matches of the year. This is easily in my top 10, I would say. I don't know if it hits my top 5, but it's definitely up there. This was my favorite match of the show. It was either this or the main event, but it was this one. Um, Fletcher can do no wrong right now. Same with Bandito, but Kyle Fletcher, no matter if Dynamite maybe not going great or if a pay-per-view needs a little shot of adrenaline, they send Kyle Fletcher out there and he knocks it out of the park every single time he's out there. I don't think there's anybody that's having a better year than Kyle Fletcher. He is my wrestler of the year so far. Just fantastic match. Um, and then we get to a not a match that was nowhere near this with the Dogs, David Finlay and Clark Connors versus the Bang Bang Gang of Juice Robinson and Jay White. Dude, this match fucking sucked. I can't lie to you. I can't lie to y'all, man. This match was bad. It stunk. Uh it was just very fucking boring, dude, and uh it went too long. Like this match was a couple seconds off of going 20 minutes long, and there was no reason for it. Like they didn't bleed, they didn't do any big spots. It was just them mostly on the outside of the ring hitting each other with a chain. That's it. Um I forgot this was a chain match, I won't lie. I think a chain match is a very dumb stipulation. If you're gonna have a match with a chain, just make it a dog collar match. That's a much better stipulation. It doesn't restrict you in any way. It doesn't make you mess up your spots because there was a few times where the spots in this match looked very clunky. They were tripping over the wire. They were tripping over the chain. They were getting caught up in the chain. There was a ending towards the end of the match. They very much wanted the effect of Juice Robinson and Jay White to kind of be hitting David Finlay, but only Jay White could reach him because Juice Robinson was tied to Clark Connors, and Clark Connors was outside of the ring on the barricade. So Juice Robinson was kind of just standing there staring at him. It was very awkward. Um, Most of this match took place outside. The only spot that I thought was kind of interesting was Clark Connors had Juice in a chokehold. He had the chain wrapped around his throat, and he had Jay White hung up on the ropes with the chain itself. He just kind of threw White over the top rope. And then I believe he like threw him under the bottom rope or something. I forget what exactly happened, but they were caught up in the ropes, and I thought that was actually a pretty interesting spot. I thought that was going to be the end. It probably should have, but Jay White overpowers David Finlay. I mean, I know you kind of have to suspend your disbelief, but that's a little too far in my opinion. um, the Dogs hit their, I don't know what they call it. It's basically a high low on Jay White. Connors goes for the pin, but Juice Robinson simply just yanks on the chain to break it up. And then towards the end of the match, the Death Riders interfere. It's Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. But the rest of the Bang Bang Gang, the Guns and Ace Austin, they come in and kind of fight them off. But while that's happening, Marina Shafir comes down and gives Finlay the shillelagh, and he hits Juice Robinson to win this match. The Dogs do win this match. There's no fucking reason this match went on for 20 minutes. It might be the worst AEW pay-per-view match of the year. I'm not kidding when I say that. This match was boring. It was too long. It didn't do anything to keep you really invested. It didn't need to be on a pay per view. It didn't need to be on Redemption. This could have very easily been on Dynamite, like a good little 10-12 minute match on Dynamite, and it would have gotten over the same. Not everybody needs a 20+ minute classic on a pay per view. And I hope Tony Khan realizes that soon, because the outcry on Twitter to kind of pump the brakes on that a little bit is starting to gain some momentum. I think at the end of the day, Tony Khan just can't help himself. That's always going to be what he does. He's always going to make these pay-per-views go 5 hours. So, yeah, I want to talk about that too. This fucking pay-per-view started at 6 o'clock my time, and this pay-per-view still didn't end until like 11. Now, granted, it's better than what was the last pay-per-view? Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door ended at like, I don't even know, like 12. Double or Nothing didn't end until like 12:30. Like, these pay-per-views go on for a while, but if I'm tuning into a pay-per-view at 6 o'clock and you don't even go off the air until after 11, like, I just don't understand. I really just don't get it. I don't get what the infatuation is of making these pay-per-views as long as possible, especially on a Sunday. If these were Saturday, I really couldn't care less how long this pay-per-view went on for. But it's Sunday. I'm trying to do stuff. I'm trying to not go to bed immediately after watching a pay-per-view. Next up, we threw it to the backstage area. Renee Paquette is interviewing Will Ospreay, and he pretty much was saying that he wasn't trying to hurt Nick Jackson. He wasn't trying to kill him. He has neck issues. He's had back issues. Moxley interrupts him and basically says at Wembley he has to show that there's no remorse and he has to be able to pull the trigger, and that there are no friends at the top, and be prepared for everybody to stab you in the back, because that's what happens when you're the top guy in AEW. That should hold weight, especially coming from Moxley, because he's held this world title like at least 4 times. And then he ends it with saying if Ospreay won't pull the trigger, he will. I think this would have gone over better as like a Dynamite promo. I don't really think this needed to be on the pay-per-view. But then again, it's cool that they're trying to add layers to this story of Ospreay only kind of being a Death Rider by name. He's not really fully embraced the Death Rider attitude. But then again, I'm kind of over it because we're a month out from Wembley Stadium, and it feels like Jon Moxley is more a part of this story than Kenny Omega is. He isn't really going after Kenny Omega. He's more concerned with Jon Moxley and what the Death Riders are doing, and that just shouldn't be what it is, in my opinion. Moxley shouldn't even be anywhere near this story. I like the idea of Will Ospreay joining the Death Riders at first. I thought the segments that they did, like training him, were great, but I think it's ran its course. I understand what this is leading towards. It's for Ospreay, Moxley after All In, assumingly after Ospreay wins the belt, and that'll be his first title feud. I assume that's where this is going. I think you could have gotten there without a fucking like 4 month long story of Ospreay joining the Death Riders. All right, next up we have Hikaru Shida versus Maya World for the AEW TBS title. Shida took control very early on, and she hit a meteor on the outside. Back inside, and Shida puts Maya in a stretch muffler while on the top rope. Considering the size difference between the two, that was actually very impressive in my opinion. But Maya World finally gets some offense in with a tilt-a-whirl head scissors. So then early on in this match, Maya goes for a sunset flip, but she lands on her knee and she starts to sell it. She's basically selling it for the rest of the match. Sheeta takes back in control for a little while. Maya gets Sheeta on the ground and hits a double foot stomp, but her knee hurts. Her knee hurts a little too much, so she's selling it a little bit. It was actually pretty good. It was a pretty good amount of selling here, in my opinion. Maya, she goes for that middle rope moonsault, but she like usually jumps into it. She couldn't jump into it this time. She tried, but her knee was too messed up. But she is still able to pull off that moonsault. After that, she goes for a shining wizard, but Sheeta counters into a single leg crab. And then after that, they do like a little pin exchange, like the 1, 1, 1, 1. It was that, and then they do a double down spot. This match was good. I think. I think it would have been better as a Dynamite match. I really do, and that's a really shitty thing to say. I think this could have been given more time. Not more time, because I think this match was like 15, 16 minutes, but I think this on a Dynamite match would have went over a lot better besides a match on a pay-per-view right in the smack middle of the card where the crowd was pretty dead. I can't lie. They were cheering for Maya, but it was very few and far between. Maya hits a shining wizard, and then she hits another one from the back, and then she hits a third one. But before she can pin Sheeta, she rolls out to the ring, and then Sheeta grabs her kendo stick, but the ref kind of wrestles it out of her hand. While this is going on, Maya is hitting the ropes to hit a suicide dive, and then she gets Sheeta back into the ring, but Sheeta was able to capitalize and hits her. I don't even know what she calls this move, like the spinning knee that she does, like unsice the katana. that's what Excalibur said. I don't know if that's right. But Maya kicked out. I've never seen this before. Sheeta hits a tombstone, but Maya's arms were like kind of wrapped up. It was kind of like this kind of thing. Her arms were wrapped up, and then she puts her in the TBS lock, which is basically a bow and arrow. She doesn't put her in this lock for very long. I think she just lets go. She doesn't even let Maya get to the ropes. And she then hits 3 knees in a row and then a falcon arrow. Maya does grab the ropes. And this finish kind of came out of nowhere to me. Maya, she caught Sheeta with a fall away slam, but she bridged into a pin, and she won the match. Maya World is the new AEW TBS champion, and that's great. I love that a lot. I think it does wonders for Maya after the run that she's been on, especially with the Owen Hart tournament. I think this can lead to a actual feud with Athena. I think her stock is only going to go up. Yes, it's too soon to put the AEW World title on her. Like, I know people wanted her to beat Mercedes. That just wasn't happening. But the TBS title, I think, will fit Maya World very well. It's just if she gets the proper TV time to actually show off her talents for this run is really the big question, because there's still some weeks where there's hardly any women's content on the entire show, and that's a big problem in my opinion. That's been a problem since AEW started, and I hope it'll change one day. I don't know if that day is coming anytime soon. All right, so the next match is Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus Pac and Claudio of the Death Riders. Pac and Claudio jump Copeland from behind before Christian even makes his entrance. Christian does make his entrance, but Pac and Claudio cut him off midway through the rope, so they kind of take him out, leaving Copeland by himself for a while. It is all Death Riders for a while Christian is on the outside. Copeland does counter the neutralizer. Claudio tried to hit him with it, but Claudio does flip out. And then they hit a double down. Copeland finally tags in Christian for the hot tag. Christian, uh, they throw Christian into the steps. He's selling his knee. His knee is hurt. Christian, when he gets tagged in, he does his like stand on the back while pulling up on the rope. He does that. And then he does the move where he jumps from in the ring to out of the ring and slaps, completely forgetting that his knee was hurt. It is what it is. Claudio tags in and puts Christian in a sharpshooter, which promptly gets booed by the Canadian crowd. Claudio then takes Copeland into the crowd and lays him out. Meanwhile, the 2-on-1 is too much as they keep double teaming Christian. Copeland does make his way back to the ring and then sends Claudio into the crowd, while in the ring, Christian hits the kill switch, but Copeland does tag in and he gets his little hot tag spot. Pac does catch Copeland in a roll up, but the ref catches his feet on the ropes. The Death Riders then hit an assisted neutralizer, which Pac just hits you with a neutralizer, and then Pac kind of swings your legs down as he's jumping off the rope. They go for the pin, but Christian breaks it up. Pac goes for the lariat that he does, the one where he bounces off the ropes 4 times. But Copeland catches him in a crossface, which is broken up by Claudio. Cage hits Claudio with a spear, and then he throws. This was kind of gnarly looking the way Pac sold this. Kind of threw Pac up in the air, and then Copeland hit him mid-air with a spear. Pac sold it great. He sold it like he got fucking shot, which I thought was awesome. And that was the finish of the match. Cage and Copeland retained the tag titles, and then they didn't have too much time to celebrate though, because the Young Bucks come down to the ring, and then they don't even get on the mic. They don't do anything like that. They just throw the graphic up on the screen. Cage and Copeland versus the Young Bucks is official for All In. Kind of like how we all thought it was going to be. Now is the time I can say this, now that the tag matches are over. There was no Motor City Machine Guns on this show. They did not debut. If I had to guess, they will be saving that for Dynamite this Wednesday. It's in Detroit. I think it would make a lot of sense. But yeah, Cage and Copeland versus the Young Bucks at All In. That's a big match to make. It's one of the bigger tag matches AEW can make. It's a match that I personally never thought was a possibility. Because I thought it was just 2 completely different generations. They passed each other by. By the time the Young Bucks hit their stride on the Indies, both of them were retired. I'm optimistic about it, but we'll see. Cage and Copeland, ever since this run, has actually been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed a lot more of their matches than I've disliked. And the Young Bucks have been moving very well since they've come back. So we'll see. We'll see if any more teams get added. I know people on Twitter were speculating for the Motor City Machine Guns to get added. I don't know if they will. If they do, the more the merrier. But this match here was good. It kind of started to overstay its welcome a little bit. But you can say that for a lot of matches on this show. All right, the next match is Chris Jericho versus Tommaso Ciampa. Chris Jericho comes out to Painkiller by Judas Priest for his theme song. That's not going to save how fucking corny this Painmaker stuff is. I've always thought this Painmaker gimmick was obscenely corny, even it just didn't make much sense to me. But the saddest thing about it is Chris Jericho probably looks at himself in the mirror and thinks he's the coolest dude in the fucking world whenever he puts that makeup on and that jacket. Whatever. Ciampa grabs a chair. Jericho has a bat, and they start swinging it at each other to start the match. Jericho throws the bat and immediately hits a code breaker, and then he pulls out a bag of sand and throws it in Ciampa's eye because of beach break, I guess. I don't know. That's what commentary said. Ciampa eventually does get the upper hand, but Jericho catches Ciampa with a fire extinguisher. He lights this dude up with this fire extinguisher. It's like 3 or 4 different times he uses this fire extinguisher. But Ciampa gets the upper hand and he hits an angel's wings off the apron through a table. It actually did look kind of gnarly. Credit to Jericho for taking that. While Jericho is down on the ground, Ciampa gets a hockey stick, which gets a big pop from the crowd, only to promptly get his heat right back when he pulls out a Boston Bruins jersey. That's a big rivalry. I'm pretty sure the Canadians and the Bruins. He then pulls out a plushie of the Canadians mascot. I forget what the mascot is called. It's an ugly looking fucking mascot. Y'all gotta do better over there. Ciampa beats it up with the hockey stick and then hits it with a lung blower. He goes to pin it, but Jericho stops it at 2. Garbage can. He then puts a garbage can over Ciampa's head and swings this hockey stick as hard as he can at this trash can while Ciampa has it on his head. And then Jericho grabs another bag, and in that bag is a bag of hockey pucks with thumbtacks glued to them. And then Jericho gets a suplex on Ciampa onto the thumbtacks. That had to have hurt. There's no way that didn't hurt, actually. A hockey puck, if you've never held one, is very hard. You can hurt somebody with those. So, and then I don't know where he even got this from, but Jericho pulls out a thing of sandpaper and he's like scrubbing Ciampa's head with it. Ciampa's bleeding. He pulls out a table with barbed wire on it. But before he's able to use that, Ciampa grabs one of the hockey pucks with thumbtacks on it and digs it into Jericho's head. Jericho doesn't bleed from that, which I thought was interesting. And then Ciampa hits him with one of like the running knees that he does. Ciampa then grabs a bag. A lot of bags in this match for some reason. He pulls out an elbow pad with thumbtacks on it. But before he's able to use it, Jericho puts him in the walls of Jericho. But Ciampa gets out of this by hitting Jericho with a barbed wire bat that he made his entrance with. But they get to the apron and Jericho gets the upper hand and puts Ciampa through the table with barbed wire on it with a Death Valley driver. Jericho goes to the other side of the ring where the commentators are, and he pulls out, I don't know if this was a window or a mirror. Commentary said it was a mirror. It looked like a window to me. I don't know. But it was... I'm just going to go ahead and say that it was actually a mirror. And he's making all these dumbass faces into it. Kind of showing how crazy the Painmaker is, but it was fucking stupid if you ask me. He puts the window on a chair bridge, like, think of like GCW doors, but it was with a window. But he was going to go for the Hurricanrana, but by the time he does go for this Hurricanrana, Ciampa puts him through the window with an air raid crash. It made a great noise. It looked great. Credit to everyone involved for that. Ciampa then goes to look for something under the ring, and he pulls out a power drill. That made me smile because I'm so sick of like no disqualification matches and other matches, and you get the most basic ass weapons you've ever seen. You get, a chair, a table, lead pipe. Like, I want to see some weird shit. I want to see the weird stuff. I want to see drills. I want to see light tubes. I want to see just weird random shit. Uh, by the time Ciampa can even use this drill, Jericho spits poison mist at Ciampa. I'm going to repeat that. Chris Jericho does the poison mist spot on Tommaso Ciampa and then hits him with a Judas effect for a near fall. Jericho then pulls out another mirror. This time it had barbed wire on it, and it had like Painmaker sayings on it or whatever. I don't know. And he smashes it over Ciampa's back, and then he puts on the thumbtacked elbow pad, hits Ciampa with it, and then he grabs the drill, puts it on his forehead, and then the bell just rings. I I would assume they want you to believe that Ciampa tapped out, but they had a close up right to his face, and it didn't look like he tapped out. Sure, he tapped out, but Chris Jericho did win this match. I expected him to. I didn't want him to. I think it just slows down the momentum that Tommaso Ciampa was on. For what this match was fun. I won't complain about Chris Jericho having like these little fun spots here and there. It sucks that he won this match because he definitely didn't need to, but sure. All right, so going backstage, Mick Foley was going to interview the Divine Dominion, and they're talking about which two women in AEW can stop us. We're the most dominant. We're all this. Mick Foley brings up the Brawling Birds. Divine Dominion said they haven't done anything worthy enough of our attention and stuff like that. Basically setting up the all-in match that they're gonna have. By the way, the entire time Mick Foley is sitting in a chair, and then Megan Bain goes, "Hey, while you're down there, why don't you bow down to us?" And I shit you not, this absolutely happened. Mick Foley proceeded to bark like a dog for the I had to give this a triple take when I was watching this because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It went on for like an uncomfortably long time. He just kept going and going and going. I don't know if he was trying to make them laugh or what, but Mick Foley legitimately barked like a dog on pay-per-view for, hey, I mean, Andrade, El Idolo versus Mark Davis for the AEW national title. Andrade has a new entrance presentation. He has a new theme. He has a new shirt. It says "How You Know" on it. Andrade, as soon as the match started, he hit his back elbow, got a close 2 count. He then hit a hurricanrana to the outside. He then goes over to Fan. He's been doing this for a while now. He took a selfie with a female that was in the crowd. But while this is going on, Davis is able to recover, and he does I don't know what this is called. I remember Pete Dunne calling this the Xplex, but he basically does that onto the apron. There's a lot of offense from Davis, but the crowd is trying to get Andrade back into the match. The crowd seems to have been woken up from kind of the last few matches kind of being what they were. Andrade gets back into the match. There's a big back and forth with chops, but Andrade ran with a forearm shot. He goes for his running knees, but Davis cuts him off with a lariat. Andrade counters and then goes into the Three Amigos. In my opinion, one of the most overused moves in all of wrestling. I think too many people do it. I'm sorry. It's just what I think. Andrade does hit his corner knees. Davis then gets control and hits Andrade with a pile driver, but Andrade is able to kick out. Davis then puts Andrade in a sleeper hold on the apron, but Andrade counters. He pulls Davis onto the apron with him, and Davis then goes for another pile driver, but Andrade counters it into a Rana, and Davis goes flying into the post. Andrade then goes to the top rope and hits a moonsault to the floor. He then puts Davis back into the ring and does his double moonsault move where he flips onto the ring and then back onto his opponent. That gets another near fall. Andrade goes for a frog splash, but Davis gets his knees up. Davis goes for another pile driver. A lot of pile driver attempts in this match, but Andrade counters. He hits his back elbow, and I forget what he calls his finish, but he hits it to win the match. We have a new AEW National Champion in Andrade El Idolo. Andrade is great. Mark Davis is great. This match didn't do a whole lot for me, and I don't really know why. I don't know why that's the case. It just happens sometimes. No matter what you try and do. It's cool that Andrade won. I think he's been long overdue for a title in AEW, but I just wish the match was a little bit better. But overall, I think this will lead to a good run for Andrade. I hope he gets the appropriate TV time for it. I think it will, considering now the belt is on Andrade, and Tony Khan's been giving Andrade a lot of TV time lately. They announced that Speedball is going to use his contract opportunity at Grand Slam Mexico on August 5th against Kyle Fletcher, which isn't this Wednesday. It's next Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That should be a good match. All right, now going into co-main event or second to last match. Tekla defends the AEW Women's title against Willow Nightingale. They immediately cut to a shot of Mercedes Moné watching from a suite. As soon as the match starts, Willow starts this match out super hot. A lot of offense, a lot of big offense. And she hits her with the pounce. Tekla is able to kind of get her bangers back, hits her with the curb stomp. Tekla's going after her ear, I guess, during the pull apart that they did on Wednesday. Willow had to get stitches on her ear, so a good chunk of this match, Tekla was going after Willow's ear. I didn't even know this existed until I was watching this match. They get to the apron and just a absolutely nasty lariat from Willow, not just absolutely blows Tekla back. A lot of overpowering spots from Willow and Tekla here. Tekla trying to get moves off, trying to do her usual offense, but Willow is just too strong. She outmatches her size wise. It led to a pretty decent dynamic, especially in the babyface role. Usually this is a heel role, but they get to the apron. Willow was going for a superplex. Tekla actually reverses it into the spider suplex that she does. You put your foot in like a little bridge and then you fall back and like you choke the guy. But instead of a choke, she was trying to make Willow smile. She was like fish hooking her, because that's Willow's thing. She smiles. Then she hits Willow with a big crossbody. Tekla tries to go for a spear, but Willow actually counters it with a sunset flip. Tekla gets caught using the ropes on a schoolboy. She tried to use the ropes, but the referee caught it. Willow goes for a moonsault. She misses it, but she gets a gut wrench powerbomb. Tekla grabbed the ropes, but then Sky Blue runs down to the ring. No Julia Hart, just Sky Blue, which I thought was a little interesting. Um, uh, Tekla's hand on the rope, but she did not. But she tried to provide a distraction. But Tekla hits a spear, but it got a near fall. And then this finish was very odd to me. Willow ran just they stand up. Willow gets a backslide. 1, 2, 3. That's how she wins the AEW Women's title. We have a new AEW Women's Champion in Willow Nightingale. Look, I'm very happy for Willow. I am very happy that she won this match. No one, I don't think, deserves this more than Willow, but I don't like how she won it. I don't like that it wasn't presented more as a bigger deal. I don't like that it seemed like it was just kind of a fluke victory when Willow has constantly been a bright spot in your women's division for I just don't really like how they went through with this. The correct winner, I will say, Willow Nightingale winning is absolutely the correct move, because then you can move on to Willow and Mercedes but I just wish it was more of a bigger deal than of Willow winning this match. I really do. The match itself was fine. It wasn't anything crazy. I've seen Willow have better matches. But I love that Willow won this match. I really do. I think she unfortunately is going to lose this belt to Mercedes. Like I said on the prediction show, you can have a really great 1 month run with the belt. It's what you do from now until then that really matters. And I think if they let her do her thing, I think we can get a great run out of Willow Nightingale as AEW Women's Champion. I really do. All right, now it is main event time. Kenny Omega defends his AEW World Championship against Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight had a new theme song here. It sucks. It's bad. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they thought it's the most bland hip hop beat you have ever heard. It just don't sound good. So they're doing the introductions to this match, and while Kenny Omega is getting introduced and doing his pose, Kevin Knight jumps in before the bell. He takes part of his wrist tape off and chokes Kenny Omega with it. But the bell rings and Omega is able to get back on offense, and it is shocking how good Kenny Omega really is moving in the ring. I didn't think he would ever be back to what he was or even remotely close, but he somehow has. He looks fantastic. He really does. He sends Kevin Knight to the outside and he tries to do the Terminator dive, but Knight cuts him off and hits a springboard of his own. Kevin Knight, being the freak athlete that he is, was able to run up onto the announcer table with one leg, leap off of it, and hit a lariat. I've never seen anything like that. It was Kevin Knight takes over this match. The crowd starts chanting "Speedball's better," which if you watch the match, you could tell that Kevin Knight was covering his ear, showing that it does get to him a little bit. It just adding nuances to his character. I think it's Omega gets back into it with a V trigger and a poison Rana. They do go back and forth into like a little strike exchange, but Omega does get the better of it with a dragon suplex. And then they go out to the apron and he hits a dragon suplex onto the apron. and then he hits a dragon suplex onto the announcer table. He pulls Kevin Knight back into the ring and basically says, "You will never be me. There's levels to this. You will never be at my level." And then he hits a V trigger. Kevin Knight counters into a DDT. He goes. Kenny gets to his feet. He starts yelling at uh Kevin to fight back, which he does. A little bit of a strike exchange between the two, and Knight hits the sky high for a near fall. Kenny Kevin Knight goes for a springboard, but Kenny Omega catches him with a drop kick. He hits a pile driver, and then he hits a sunset flip powerbomb into a V trigger, and then he then goes for the avalanche one winged angel, but Kevin Knight fights out of it, and he hits a coast to coast. Kevin Knight grabs the title. He looks like he is going to use the AEW World title, but he throws it to the other side of the ring, and then I think he actually does hit Kenny with the TNT title, and then he hits the crash landing onto it. Omega kicks out. Kenny Omega kicks out. He then goes for one winged angel. Knight counters. He goes for another one of his like springboard lariats, but Omega catches him with a V trigger. And then he does hit the one winged angel for the win. Kenny Omega retains the AEW World title. I genuinely thought this was a fantastic match. I thought he's not there mentally, but he's there physically. He shows that he can hang with Kenny Omega, but there is a drive in Kenny Omega that Kevin Knight doesn't have yet. There is a mindset that Kenny Omega has that Kevin Knight doesn't. He shows that there is levels to this, and Kevin Knight just isn't on that level yet. But Kevin Knight was with him every step of the way physically. The way he was moving in this match was fantastic. It was a fantastic performance from Kevin Knight. If this was some sort of trial run to see if he could be a main event guy, I think he passed with flying colors. Kevin Knight's going to be one to watch out for a very long time. So after the match, because we are not done yet, the Death Riders attack Kenny Omega. It's all of them. It's Wheeler, it's Garcia, Pac, Claudio, Marina Shafir, and then Moxley comes in at the end, and I forget. They go to use a chair. That's when the Young Bucks come in and try and save. They try and save Kenny, but they're fended off pretty quickly. And then they grab a chair and they put it on Kenny Omega's neck, the same way that they did to Ospreay, which in kayfabe made him go get neck surgery. Ospreay then comes in and tries to stop the Death Riders. He says he doesn't want to do it this way. He wants to fight him at 100% and all this other stuff. Wheeler Yuta then goes in for a hug, and then while he is mid-hug with Ospreay, he gives the thumbs up to Claudio, but Ospreay can see him out of the corner of his eye going for it. So then he goes and he stops Claudio, and then Moxley gets in the ring and pretty much relays to him what he told him in the back. He goes, "Look, if you won't do it, I'll do it. This is what you need to do to be at the top." But Ospreay's not having it. Ospreay's not having any of it. He is trying to do it the right way. He is doing everything he can do. So then Mox backs off, and then he grabs the plastic bag, the bag that he did to Bryan Danielson. I think he did it to Hangman at one point. But he gave it to Ospreay, and he wanted Ospreay to do it to Kenny. Uh, they Ospreay was holding the bag for a while. He was looking at Moxley. He was looking at Omega. At first, I thought they were gonna have him put the bag on Moxley. I think I would have enjoyed that more. But Ospreay rips up the bag and goes and he forearms Moxley, and the Death Riders pretty much throw their hands up. They're saying, "Okay, we're out of here." By this point, Kenny Omega gets back to his feet. He sees the bag. Uh, he and Ospreay then shake hands. And I thought this was very weird. They play Kenny Omega's music, and then they get up on the turnbuckles and they start posing. They start celebrating. Ospreay gets up on another turnbuckle, but Kenny Omega gets from under him and plants him with a one-winged angel. Everybody's stunned. Commentary is like, "What are you doing? Why would you do this?" The Young Bucks look confused. A lot of people took this as a Kenny Omega heel turn. Now, if this is a Kenny Omega heel turn, I personally think that's brilliant because going into Wembley, I think Omega being the heel is the right move. I think you could have done this babyface versus babyface, but I like the idea of a heel Kenny Omega walking into Wembley more. But there are people that are saying it's not a heel turn. It's just Omega showing that maybe you should have listened to Mox, because this ultimately proves Mox's point at the end of the day, saying that, hey, it's lonely at the top. You have to be prepared for everybody to stab you in the back, no matter who they are. No matter how much love, no matter how much respect you have for them, they're going to stab you in the back. That's how top guys stay on top. And I think that was more of a lesson that Kenny Omega was trying to show Will. I don't know if it's a heel turn. I would like it to be, but I don't think it was. But yeah, that is how Redemption went off the air. That was honestly the most entertaining part of the entire show for me, outside of like Bandito and Fletcher or the Kenny match, the actual Kenny match. It throws a little spice into this build for All In, which hasn't really had much of one, in my opinion. We got to wait till Dynamite to see if this really was a heel turn or not. But overall, I think, because it's not like a lot of these matches weren't bad, except for that Dogs and Bang Bang Gang match. Fuck that dumbass match. It was just some of these didn't need to be on a pay-per-view. But the highs of this pay-per-view were very high. So yeah, B- is where I'm kind of sitting at. We gotta wait till Wednesday. It should be a big show on Wednesday. We'll learn the fallout, maybe a Motor City Machine Guns debut. But yeah, that will do it for AEW Redemption, and that will do it for episode 2 of the Mark with the Mic podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. A little content update. We might be doing SummerSlam predictions. I don't know though. I'm kind of busy for the rest of this week. If we don't get to SummerSlam predictions, at the very least, I will be back with you on Monday to talk about SummerSlam both nights. Yeah, we're doing WWE, we're doing AEW. If TNA has a big show, I'll talk about it. Maybe not. But yeah, the next thing will be SummerSlam, and then after that, will be more of the normal for what I want this podcast to be. But that about wraps us up here today or tonight. It's getting dark outside, as you can probably tell. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means a lot to me. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week, months, whatever the case may be, because you absolutely deserve it. Thank you guys.